Have you ever felt like you're constantly talking, writing, and presenting, yet somehow nobody is actually listening to you? Well, you're definitely not alone. We are living in a modern crisis of what executive communication coach Connie Daikin brilliantly calls communiclutter. I mean, we're bombarded 24/7 with these short burst, incoming electronic messages, and as a result, our attention spans are absolutely plummeting. But what if you could actually change minds, inspire remarkable results, and achieve way more, all while using fewer words? Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're exploring Daikin's groundbreaking book, Talk Less, Say More, and her highly effective Connect, Convey, Convince methodology. This is really all about cutting through the noise and mastering the art of high-performance communication.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the 3 habits, then look at being fully present, front-loading your messages, and mastering Goldilocks candor. After that, we'll shift gears into why visuals trump audio, and finally, wrap up with talking in triplets.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the 3 habits: connect, convey, and convince.
Look, we live in a completely attention-deficit world where the listener holds the remote control. So let me ask you this directly, and be honest. Are you a weak connector? Do you struggle with getting people to actually listen? Do they take forever to return your emails? It's a paradox, right? High-tech connectivity has somehow completely eroded our personal connectivity. To fix this, we've got to master the very first habit: connect.
That brings us right into Chapter 2, be fully present, staying in their moment.
Smart connecting really means giving people what they want, right up front, so they actually tune in. And to do that, you've got 3 tactics. First up, be right here, right now. Basically, put the phone away and adapt to their style. Second, listen for intent. People rarely say exactly what they mean, So you have to listen for the underlying emotion behind the words. And third, avoid code red, meaning keep your own emotions in check.
And this brilliantly illustrates that third point. Daikin shares this unbelievable anecdote in the book about Kelly. She was a corporate director and literally the only woman on her executive team. Well, Kelly had a bit of a habit of getting overly emotional and defensive, what Daikin calls a code red state, whenever her ideas were challenged. So to step back from that emotional hijacking, Kelly actually printed out a small copy of this exact Homeland Security chart and taped it inside her pad folio. Whenever she felt herself slipping into code red, she'd just glance at the chart, calm herself down, and refocus outwardly on her audience. It literally saved her career.
Moving right along to Chapter 3, First Things Fast, front-loading your message.
We all know the pure agony of dealing with a rambling communicator, right? The kind who jumps from tangent to tangent. Well, the cure is a technique called front-loading, and it breaks down into 3 simple steps. Step 1 is nailing the big idea. Give them the headline first. Step 2 is choosing their PMOC, and Step 3 is diffusing defensiveness before you deliver any tough news. Let's actually zero in on Step 2 for a second. PMOC stands for Preferred Method of Communication. Now, notice it says their PMOC, not yours. We all have a robotic default. For instance, the book tells this story about Andy. He's a sales rep who is desperately trying to close this massive deal with a client named Larry. Andy left Larry multiple voicemails begging him to call back. But here's the catch. Larry hated voicemail. He was an absolute email addict. Because Andy used his own preferred method instead of his client's, Larry completely missed the messages and actually signed with a competitor. Ouch, right? So always ask yourself, how does this specific person prefer to be reached?
Okay, next up is Chapter 4, Goldilocks candor. Get ready to rumble.
To maintain those vital connections we just talked about, we really have to find a perfectly balanced way to give and receive feedback, which means avoiding 2 incredibly toxic extremes. On one side, you have demoralizing. This is that borderline cruel criticism and constant fault-finding that just makes people put their walls up. On the other side is sugarcoating, hiding the bad news just to avoid conflict. Both totally destroy trust. What you need is just right candor. It's direct, it's honest, and it focuses on the issue, never the person.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The purpose of workplace candor is to improve performance. It's not about showing everyone who's the smartest in the room, and it's definitely not about making people feel warm and fuzzy. It is strictly about improving. And suppressing this kind of candor, it can lead to literal disasters. The book references the incredibly tragic NASA Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. Engineers actually knew there were potential problems with the fuel tank insulation. But because the culture completely lacked healthy candor, the lower-level warnings were just dismissed by higher-ups. A culture of candor doesn't just save feelings, folks. It saves lives and it saves organizations.
All right, shifting gears from connect to convey. Chapter 6, Visuals Trump Audio. The eyes trump the ears.
When we're drowning in information, the key to conveying your message is visual dominance and portion control. Here is a fascinating little piece of cognitive psychology. Your brain processes visuals up to 10 times faster than mere words. Showing, rather than just telling, is a massive, massive shortcut to clarity.
Now, what's really interesting here is looking at the two biggest traps. We've all suffered through presentation bloat on the left, slide after slide of dense text that the presenter is essentially just reading out loud like a teleprompter. It's excruciating. But the trap on the right, going clip art crazy, is honestly just as bad. Throwing in every bell, whistle, and flashy graphic creates noise, not clarity. Remember, you are the star of the show. Your slide should just be clean, visual backup singers.
Moving into our final chapter today, Chapter 7, Talk in Triplets, Tapping into the Trilogy.
It's kind of wild when you think about it, but our brains subconsciously crave information in multiples of 3. It is this deeply ingrained everyday pattern that just makes messages stick. I mean, look at education. We learn the 3 R's. In sports, it's the Triple Crown. In entertainment, you've got ABC, NBC, CBS. Even in law, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We are just so deeply comfortable with 3 of anything.
Because of this psychological wiring, 3 is simply the world's most powerful number for receiving information. If you try to give someone 5 or 6 key takeaways, no way, they're going to get overwhelmed and forget the whole shebang. If you give them just 1 or 2, it sort of feels incomplete. Structuring your ideas, your choices, and your pitches into triplets will instantly save you time, completely prevent confusion, and make your message infinitely more memorable.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground today in this explainer, looking exactly at how to structure and deliver your messages chapter by chapter. But honestly, it all comes down to the choice you make right before you open your mouth or type your very next email. Will you continue adding to the overwhelming noise of communical clutter, just crossing your fingers and hoping someone eventually hears you? Or will you do the hard work of managing their attention and information? By being fully present, front-loading your intent, using that perfectly balanced Goldilocks candor, leaning heavily on simple visuals, and organizing your thoughts into triplets, you can transform from someone who just talks into a high-performance communicator who truly connects, conveys, and convinces. Like we said earlier, the listener holds the remote control. So, what are you going to do to make sure they don't change the channel?